I got my mojo working, baby, and I'm gonna try it on you. Oh yeah, I got my mojo working, baby, and I'm gonna try it out on you. Oh yeah, well I tried in New York City. Oh, now I'm gonna try it on you. Oh yeah, I got my mojo working, baby, and I'm gonna try it on you. Oh, look later, I'm got my mojo working, baby. Yeah, I'm gonna try it on you. Well, I tried in New York City. Oh, no, I'm gonna try it on you. Oh, yeah, I'm working my
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome your host, Brad Behrens.
Hello, hello. We're back here in the main stage for our afternoon back-to-back mini keynotes. Thank you so much for coming. Who's having a good, let's give the people on the expo floor a big round of applause. Who's having a good time on the floor? All right. So we have two back-to-back keynotes for you from two companies that are innovating in remarkable ways. And I'm actually, it's relatively rare for Walmart to speak on a stage like this, and it's relatively rare for Sarah Ortloff Khoury to be speaking in an ad conference. So we're very blessed to have her. Chris Bolte, who was the Walmart Ad Labs executive, had a family emergency and couldn't make it. And we found that out last week, and our thoughts are with him and with his family. And we are also very grateful both to Walmart and to Sara for gallantly stepping into the breach. Walmart is the world's biggest retailer and tremendous on the e-commerce scene. For those of you who were there this morning when I was talking about some stats, I cited some e-commerce numbers, some e-marketer numbers about how showrooming is becoming very prevalent. We're seeing and headed towards this extraordinary inflection point of 50% of the people who have cell phones having smartphones. And we're seeing, and I talked about Narnia and Alice Through the Looking Glass, this collapse of the old division between the digital world and the physical world. We are all always already digital with the digital universe all the way around us, and that is posing both challenges and extraordinary opportunities for retailers and manufacturers alike. Sara is the person who leads this process at Walmart. We're extraordinarily fortunate to have her. Let's give her a big warm welcome, round of applause. Come on out. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Brad. I'm really glad to be here today, and I want to thank the organizers of AdTech for putting together this great event. I've been working in the Bay Area leading UX teams for about 20 years now, and I've really seen technology and consumer behavior evolve during that time. I mean, now there are, 1/3 of the globe's population is online. 36% of those people are researching products online, and 47% are having social media influence their purchasing decisions. So today, I'm here to talk about that ever-evolving connected customer and to talk about how to imagine and create new experiences that help you differentiate your brand in this changing marketplace. So I've always been drawn to solving real problems for real people, and I like to solve complex problems. There are a few people here in the audience that know me, and they would attest that the more complex a problem is, the more engaged I get. So it shouldn't be a surprise that helping customers save money at scale is what brought me to Walmart eCommerce. With 10,500 stores globally, 200 million customers shopping our stores weekly, what Walmart does tends to drive broader change in the marketplace. Now, I know that many of you are in the Bay Area, so you may not shop Walmart as much as the rest of the country does, but I'll give you an example of what I mean by that. We were the first company to offer $4 prescriptions to consumers. Now, for your average consumer, that's a major monthly savings. Many of our competitors followed suit, and that amplified and scaled that savings for Americans even more. Mass adoption of smartphones is blurring the lines between physical and digital shopping. This is changing the face of retail as we know it. Customers control the experience now. Forrester refers to this shift in control over product and price information to the customer as the age of the customer, a time when focus on the customer is the most important strategic imperative. And at the same time, user experience has come to represent all of the touch points that make a product or a service relevant to consumers. In fact, I think that user experience is becoming the most powerful expression of brand. It's now a highly valued corporate asset. And that's a big change from where we started out. When I first started in user experience, usability was the main success metric. Can you complete a form? Can you check out? Can you complete a task? Optimization drives increased ROI through increased usability, and new features drive increased ROI through new value. But in the age of the customer, customer-focused innovation is now our highest point of contribution. And those of you in the audience that are researchers, creative directors, designers, strategists, you're all really well positioned to contribute at this higher level, because you understand consumer behavior. You understand not only what customers do in a backward-looking fashion, looking at data, you can extrapolate why they do the things that they do. This is really, really critical in the age of the customer. Being able to anticipate and predict what customers are going to do is so much more important than merely knowing what they do. So we can now move beyond enabling ease of use and transactions between companies and customers to driving transformation in how customers relate to brands. And as we move up this hierarchy of user experience contribution or creative contribution, we have to be bolder. We have to be more creative and more persuasive about our ideas. So as our experience and our skills have become more relevant in the age of the customer, I've noticed there's been a shift in the relationship between product management and user experience. Now, you may experience that more as a shift between product management marketing or product marketing and creative, but in my world, I've seen, 15 years ago, the success criteria was, is a product usable? Moved to about 10 years ago as user experience emerged as a more end-to-end holistic practice. Is this a good experience? And now more recently, in the last 5 years, I felt a really increased accountability, much higher expectations from product managers to deliver something that's different. So it's not good enough to have a usable or a good user experience anymore. You have to be differentiated to capture customers for the long run. I like to say that the age of the customer requires excellence. In fact, a lot of user experience leaders are being called on to lead product definition efforts or to become design co-founders themselves and create companies like Airbnb and Instagram. I mean, the list just goes on. They're really focused on delivering products and services that are differentiated by design. And if you look at what Apple's done by investing in a unified user experience strategy, you can see the benefits of creating a seamless access to products and services as an ecosystem. And Apple's done that because they strive to think different. I was asked last year to envision the future of what it'd be like to shop at Walmart.com. And in this case study, I want to illustrate where I went with that question. And my goal here is not to go into great detail. It's really more to share with you a practical example, something you could take back to your workplace and use as a framework for solving problems like this. Because the intersection of technology, consumers, marketing, and user experience is what we're really all here to learn about today. So before I get into the case study, I just want to make a point that tried and true processes or workflows for executing creative for advertising or doing user-centered design and research aren't applicable to an effort like this. You have to work differently. I drew from design thinking principles as a way to build a process for this effort. Principles like thinking holistically, deepening empathy for the customer, going broad before going narrow, really rapidly experimenting, not just trying to execute a tactical solution, trying to really understand the problem and dig deeper to innovate. You also need, in an effort like this, a very keen sense of intuition. Intuition is probably the most valuable skill that we possess. And I believe that because we've never lived in a more rapidly changing marketplace. We have to constantly react to changes in technology and consumer behavior. We have to be nimble and flexible and know when to pivot. So I want to make sure that you understand that when you have a gut feeling about something, it's really important. I value data. I use data in all of my work, and I use it to inform my decisions, but I trust my intuition to tell me what to do. So the process that I set up for this effort consisted of 3 stages. The first is delineate. This is where you sketch out your plan, you frame the problem you're solving. The second is generate. This is when you kind of think laterally without constraints. You go broad before going narrow. And then communicate. This final critical stage is where you tell the story about your vision in a way that gets people behind it, that gets people motivated to take action and become part of it. So I'm going to go quickly, but this first stage is about understanding the problem, understanding your customers, and thinking critically. You're making the plan, you're asking questions, and your decisions delineate the outcome. And I'm telling you this because to be successful, you're going to have the courage to go out on a limb, listen to your gut, and do things differently. So I had 12 weeks for this effort, and when I laid out my plan, my intuition told me not to dive straight into expressing user experience concepts. I reserved the first 4 weeks of the timeline to do broad strategic research and define how we would communicate our solutions. We could go broad, iterate, and rapidly create ideas after we had our strategic foundation built. But believe me, my stakeholders really wanted to see, what is Walmart.com going to look like in the future? And I want to see some deliverables like next week for that. And so I'm emphasizing this because you have to have the discipline and the relationship with your stakeholders and be transparent about the research that you're uncovering and the value it'll have to getting to the right problem before you start solving that problem. So as I had mentioned earlier, when you're moving up the hierarchy of contribution creatively, you need to be more persuasive and more creative in how you communicate your solutions. So in an effort like this, you need to really put more time into planning what the communication artifacts you're going to deliver really are going to be. And in this case, I identified three audiences. I really thought about how could I reach these audiences and what do these audiences care about? They're all very different from each other. The Walmart.com organization, the sponsors of the project, they really wanted to see a change in the Walmart.com experience. And so for that group, I decided to create a strategic framework that fit on one page that included design principles, and that would help align the effort as we went, and also serve as a set of guidelines to guide future decisions after we were done with the envisioning process. The second audience that I was designing for were the kind of a broader Walmart organization, the stores organization, our executives, our infrastructure teams, and our sales associates. For this audience, we decided to create a video. And the video would help express a vision for change that would rally the larger organization. The final audience was the product and development team in Walmart Global eCommerce. For this audience, I created a set of really richly textured customer experience journeys that laid out the disruptive and innovative ideas that we wanted to put out into the future. And that would really inform priorities for our future roadmaps as well as platform. So with our project communication plan laid out, we began to rigorously question. I call this steering straight into the problem. It's basically about getting to know the problem space from the inside. You really can't solve a problem like this from the surface. You know, for example, we know that a high percentage of customers research products online. And in this research stage, we found that out of US smartphone owners that use smartphones to purchase, 44% have looked up online product information while shopping in a store. So you don't have to do your research at home on a PC anymore. 37% have compared physical store prices with online prices. The brand loyalty that may have existed in the past around physical retailers is being disrupted by the ability to get the best price wherever you want. And in a recent survey of our customers, we found that 11% of them take a picture and post it online to ask for advice about purchases. 12% use their smartphones to research a product for purchase at least weekly. And with 2.5 million check-ins, we're the retailer with the most in-store check-ins. So before you get into tactics, you need to look inside and outside your company and think broadly about the problem you're solving. That's how you start to surface your unique differentiators. So as you know, customers aren't shopping by channel anymore. They're shopping wherever they want and whenever they want. So at this point, my intuition told me that we needed to change the problem statement. Everything we found in our initial research pointed us to a much larger question. What would it be like to shop Walmart, not just Walmart.com in the future? You own the problem in an effort like this, and you need to remember that your goal is to be creative and solve the problem at a transformational level, not a transactional level. You can't take challenges on at face value when you're doing vision work. In fact, this project really taught me that the value of the challenge you create, the quality of the challenge that you create and you choose to solve, is going to determine the outcome. So this next stage is about lateral thinking, where you ideate without constraints. But first, you need to translate the reasons for changing the problem statement for your business stakeholders and your team. I'm highlighting this because you need to start generating ideas quickly, but you have to build trust and commitment in your vision first. You need to talk about your rationale and get everybody aligned to it. And at some point during the research stage, I'd come across this research from Forrester. And it struck me as the most concise and clear way to communicate to my business stakeholders why we were changing the problem statement. So if you were a business stakeholder, some of you may be, would you rather go after 3% of online sales growth or 77% of all online influence sales? That is the fastest growing sector of retail, online influence sales. And Walmart has a really unique competitive advantage when it comes to combining physical and digital assets in new ways. In order to reframe this challenge for my team, I asked, how can we use both physical and digital assets in new ways to deliver an experience ecosystem that only Walmart can deliver? With new technology enabled by smartphones and mobile devices, what are the new possibilities that open up to interact with all of our store touchpoints? With Wi-Fi enabled stores, what are the new services and products that could help our sales associates and our customers save money and time? How are our associates, our merchants, and suppliers using technology? With 4,000 stores in the US today and a growing e-commerce business, I asked my team to think about our physical and digital assets differently. What if we thought about our stores as distribution centers for online orders? That radically grows our distribution center network overnight. We estimate that 50% of our customers in stores have smartphones today. What if we really focused on creating apps that made the store shopping experience more relevant, more local, more manageable? So I asked my team to transform how they thought about the relationship between online and physical shopping experiences. And my challenge to the team was a big one. I won't even go into some of the reactions I got because we were basically 8 weeks in and we had to think much larger and solve a much bigger problem, which is not just about how to shop Walmart.com, it's about how we'll shop Walmart in the future across many devices and in stores. But to be a trusted leader, you really need to come through for your team consistently. And I built trust with my team through my accountability. My accountability to get the problem statement right, to gather all of the research that we would need to ground our ideas in facts, and to help them land the solution. So I was very engaged. I wasn't sitting in my office saying, come show me what you got, you're on target, you're off target. I was very much working with the team side by side. And I can't emphasize this to you enough because trust is the essential ingredient to creating an innovative and collaborative workplace where people feel supported to take risks, to fail fast, to learn, and to rapidly experiment and innovate. So when it's time to ideate, it's time to tap into the whole organization. Don't make the mistake of working with creatives or UX people alone. You need to look broadly across the enterprises you're working with and find the stakeholders and special subject matter experts that you need to get into the heart of the best, most innovative ideas. We engaged about 20 groups from our store innovations team, our mobile team, marketing, labs, merchandising, product management, just to name a few. And I asked each group to imagine that Walmart offered a seamless shopping experience where there was no friction between channels. We generated thousands of ideas, and we inventoried them into a huge spreadsheet. And then we cut that spreadsheet up, and we took all of the atomic ideas and grouped and regrouped them into disruptive and differentiating features and services. Then I asked each participant to write down user scenarios of our customers, our associates, our suppliers, and merchants using these new features and functionality in the future. And that really formed the basis of the customer experience journeys that we delivered, which would inform our future roadmap and platform priorities. And then we extracted some of the near-term ideas we could execute on today to use as the raw material for our vision video. So the final stage is all about the critical skill of communication. As designers and creatives, we learn to present our work and respond to critiques. But as experienced design leaders, we need to listen and think critically and synthesize ideas. We need to learn to attune to the concerns of our stakeholders and our teams, and we need to tap into a very unique skill, which is to tell a genuine and authentic story about the future that's compelling and can influence outcomes. So using what we discovered through our research, we developed a visual strategic framework that could be captured on one sheet of paper. It consisted of our business priorities, our customer trends, the experience design principles that we developed. And the reason I'm showing you this is because it's really important to make it easy for people to understand your vision so they can act on it, they can internalize it, and they can treat it as their own when you're not around. And we didn't want to just synthesize, we didn't want to state our strategy. We wanted to bring it to life, so we synthesized it into one statement. Walmart my way, saving money is easy, anytime, anywhere. And this became a sentence that was spoken by all of our executives and embraced by our staff. Now, obviously I can't share the customer experience journey work that we did because it contains our most disruptive and differentiating ideas, but today I am going to share with you the vision video that we created. Our goal with the video was to attune stakeholders to our near-term vision and show the things that we could do today with existing technology and existing stores. Our tactic was to tell a story set in 2014 about the benefits of reducing friction in the shopping experience and providing new apps and tools for shopping and planning. And I want you to pay special attention to the epilogue at the end of the video because it's a creative way to get all of the facts that we needed to get out there to kind of provide proof points of the technical changes, the customer behavior changes that are occurring today. And we were communicating with what is largely a physical store enterprise, so it was important to fold the trends and changes in how consumers are using technology into the story. You just can't rely on PowerPoint or appendices with tons and tons of facts in them to get credibility behind your ideas. You have to be creative about that. So I'm going to play the video and then we'll wrap it up.
My daughter's Sweet 16 is just a few days away, and I really want to make it special. But as you can see, I've kind of got my hands full. And while Ellie's been plotting her big day since her last birthday, I haven't had as much time to plan. That's why I'm so glad I have Walmart to help. Suggest recipes for a party for 10 people with a budget of $125.
Mom, I invited the soccer team too.
Make that 20 people.
Okay, so I am going to wrap up really quickly because I'm going to run out of time. But basically, you can see that we brought that idea of Walmart My Way, saving money is easy anytime, anywhere, to life through a video. It's a really important testament to the power of storytelling to capture people's imaginations. Joel Anderson, the CEO of Walmart.com, showed this video to his staff at a year beginning meeting, and I don't know how it happened, but the thing went viral. It was passed around from the home office, from our offices in San Bruno, to stores in the field. I mean, it was everywhere, and people wanted to know, how can I be part of this? Where can I get a copy? Can I share this with my team? And again, if I leave you with anything today, it's that as creative thinkers, we have two really key aptitudes when envisioning and communicating a vision. And one, obviously, is the power of storytelling, and the other is the aptitude of intuition, being able to know how to look at the landscape and be analytical and think critically about data and observations and form your own point of view and know when to pivot. So we just talked a little bit about the importance of attuning the organization to your vision, but how do you put work like this into action? That's where influence comes in. Basically, I'll go really quickly and say that we have a pilot right now and test and market for same-day delivery. That's how the mom ordered the shirt in small and had it delivered to her on the same day. We shipped it from a nearby store, again, using our stores as distribution centers. In market today, in our app, we have what I call in-store mode, and that has been a really successful feature. It basically lets you geo-fence the store you're in when you say you're in the store. So what could be more frustrating than being in a huge store and seeing tons of products that you can't find in the store? So that's a really important tactic to making the shopping experience easier and basically limiting the inventory you see in the app to what you can actually get in that store. Did you guys know that Walmart won the mobile retailer of the year this last year? In fact, we won 3 major awards for innovation in mobile. And what's more important is that our customers give us 4.5 stars for our apps. So I'm incredibly proud of our mobile team for delivering innovation today that helps our customers shop our stores. And I'm also very proud of the global user experience team for rising to the challenge to envision a future of shopping Walmart and differentiating the company's future and how we relate to our customers. So in closing, I'm going to leave you with one challenge. What if we were all bolder? What if we all reached higher? We left this conference with a new mindset, determined to deliver you excellence. Thank you, everyone. It's been a great audience.
Let me see it. That was great, and I have no mic. Hold on. If I can get a mic. Hello? Ah, perfect. Let's see. We've got time for a couple of quick questions, Zara. Anybody want to ask one? I'll start, right, which is, there are a lot of your retailer partners at Procter, at Colgate. I saw Colgate-Palmolive in the video, or Unilever, and they too are looking out for all sorts of ways of innovating and trying to figure out what the next 7 to 15 years are going to be bringing them. How are you able to, or what are the challenges? Not that you've already cut yourself quite a challenge just going from .com to all of Walmart,
right.
But how do the people who are selling toothpaste play in this brave new world that you're creating, and how are their marketing efforts and their fights for shelf space and their apps and their mobile experiences going to be coherent with yours, or are they not?
Well, I think, again, the point of my talk today was that you have to put the customer in the center of what you're doing this day forward. Brands that figure out how to be relevant to customers versus push or broadcast their brand message will be more successful. I don't know if you noticed in the video, but we did show when the mom was shopping in the store, she was going through her shopping list, and when she got to the end cap that had the Country Time lemonade on it, remember that spot? Basically, the manufacturer of that beverage was saying you can buy 2 liters of this instead of 2 6-packs, it's a better value. So advertising and marketing that actually relates to customers how to save money gives them a real utility in the moment, in the context of their shopping trip, I think will be the winners in the future, and that's what we were really trying to show in the video.
All right, so one of the things about asking questions here is house rules are you've got to stand up, as this gentleman's doing, and you have to tell us who you are. So tell us who you are and ask Sara your question.
Hi, I'm David Bobber. I work for Eyes on Media in San Francisco. My question is about actually following up on what you're talking about, the country time example, is about conversion. How important is it as you're looking at these things to actually increase the basket size as opposed to just getting people what they want and getting them out of the store on their mission trip?
Well, I think we tried to speak to that subtly in the video because what we showed was a customer who was accomplishing both, their regular stock up trip and a special event trip. So in one trip, she was able to stock up on her weekly groceries and also get everything she needed for the event that she was planning. We're a retailer. I mean, conversion is very important to us. I think that, again, putting the customer in the center is going to be the way to drive the biggest basket.
So, Sara, that was wonderful. Let's give her a big ad tech round of applause. Sara Ortloff Khoury from Walmart. Thank you very, very much. That was wonderful.
You're welcome.
And I'm going to stay down here. We're about to bring up Tom Conrad. He's the CTO and EVP of Pandora. Now, we were lucky enough to have Pandora on stage with us last year as we did a music session at the very end of the show. They are pervasively the music purveyor, the future of radio across so many different devices, and they started with the Music Genome Project. Tom has been there for 9 years. He owns the product, he owns the advertising experience, and he's going to talk with us today about marketing in a mobile-connected world. Their vision for how the universe is changing and how chronic access is a key part of their vision is truly extraordinary. So let's give a big round of applause for Tom Conrad. Come on out.
Good afternoon, everybody. Waking up after lunch, I hope. I'm Tom, and I'm here to talk to you a little bit about Pandora and how we think about connecting advertisers with our audiences. So I'm slowly getting used to the notion that when I tell people that I work for Pandora, they know right away that I don't mean the jewelry company. But I've been at the company for 9 years, going back to the kind of 2004, the year that we did the formative work that led to the launch of Pandora in 2005. And when we created the service, our ambition was pretty simple. We wanted to connect audiences with artists that they'll love, to find that intersection that's truly personal and really entirely about your passion in music. So it's been quite a journey. I think between the summer of 2005 and the summer of 2008, when the iPhone 3G launched with the App Store, we accumulated about 13 million listeners. That was probably at least 12 million beyond my wildest dreams. And then the iPhone launched, and it was just this incredible accelerant for us. Fast forward to 2 years ago, we had 100 million users interacting with the service. And just this morning, just 2 years later, we've announced that we've now crossed 200 million listeners in the United States. So it's certainly now really, really, really beyond anything I could have imagined. Those listeners listen for 1.5 billion hours per month. So just tremendous, tremendous part of people's lives. But I think maybe the part that I'm the most proud of is that in the last month, we played almost 1 million songs from over 100,000 artists. And just to put that in a little bit of context, the traditional radio world, we look at the largest FM station in the entire country, they played about 270 artists and 540 songs in the same month. So we've really, really changed what it means to engage with this incredibly simple, ubiquitous medium of radio, and we've given people access to content that they just couldn't find anywhere else. So we certainly feel good about our progress against this mission of connecting audiences and artists. Now, with 1.5 billion hours of listening each month, we're generating about 15 billion ad impressions a month. So there's a huge opportunity there. We also have a big licensing bill to pay, so we have to take advantage of that opportunity. And advertising today at Pandora operates on it's probably not exaggerating to say a dozen different dimensions. We have products and solutions for premium brand advertisers across display, rich media, video. We have an entirely separate team and infrastructure devoted to direct response and performance advertisers. And increasingly, we're building out the local and national teams to take advantage of the traditional radio buys that at one point made sense on terrestrial radio and increasingly make sense on Pandora, because in all of the top markets in the United States, Pandora is the largest or the second largest radio station that's available to listeners. And so we're really helping that industry make the move from terrestrial buys into the digital world. And so I get up and talk to audiences all the time about Pandora and tell our story, and I always sort of proudly say that advertising has been part of our thinking since day one. That my team that builds the product is completely wed with the same group of engineers that builds the advertising functionality. We think of it as one cohesive piece. But as I was preparing for today and thinking about speaking to this particular audience, it occurred to me that that's not really true. It's a bit of a lie to say that we've been thinking about advertising since day one, and it seemed, I don't know, inappropriate to get up here in front of this particular audience and lie about advertising. So let me show you what Pandora looked like when we launched in 2005. So this is Pandora in July of 2005. I think you'll quickly note it was the best use of khaki in the Web 2.0 era. We really also embraced the timeless brushed metal aesthetic. So we actually launched the service as a subscription service. The thinking was, well, gosh, on day one, we're going to have absolutely no audience of zero. No advertiser is going to be interested in that. So let's build awareness for the service. Start off with a small free trial. You see there it says you get 10 hours for free. And then after 10 hours, we would invite people to subscribe to the service for $36 a year or go elsewhere. So we did that. And we were amazed by how quickly we started building an audience. And so quickly, in fact, that by the fall, it had become clear that we needed to accelerate our plans to build an ad-supported version of the service. And so we put all those plans together to build the ad-supported service. And I had a project plan that involved integrating ad-serving technology and redesigning the product so that there was a natural place to put advertising into the experience. And that whole thing, gosh, in like startup days, was going to take like 6 weeks, I think. So we went to the board with this plan. We said, we're going to spend the next 6 weeks getting ready to launch the ad-supported service. And I remember the exact phrase they used was, we don't think it should take 6 weeks. We think it should take 6 nanoseconds. They were like, you already have this free service, and you're not going to have any actual advertisers, of course, in the beginning. So just make it free for everybody and be on your way. Well, there are a whole bunch of reasons why that was hard, but we did it in 6 days instead of 6 weeks. But it did mean that we launched the new ad-supported free version of Pandora without any advertisers, without any ad-serving technology, without any designs that allowed for display advertising. And then a funny thing happened. We got a call on the second day the service was live from a large consumer brand, I'll tell you a little bit more about this story later, who said, we want to buy all of your ad inventory for the months of November and December, which was sort of comical since we didn't have any ad inventory. So I remember this day pretty well because I was in my creative director's office and we were doing an exercise that looked like this. How about a medium rectangle there? How about a medium rectangle there? And right at this moment, our CEO came into the cubicle and said, Tom, I'd like to introduce you to Cheryl Lucanegro. Cheryl is contemplating coming to join the company as our first vice president of ad sales. At which point I moved the rectangle there, and she said, yeah, no, not there. Which began a creative partnership that lasted for many, many years as we figured out a little bit about what advertising on Pandora meant. So ultimately, we did launch with a display ad roughly there. I think we can all agree, still feels pretty shoehorned into the site. Now, this is a campaign from Honda that was, in many ways, our first legitimate campaign. This was a campaign that was sourced by the team of ad sellers that we put in place in those early days to go out and find innovative brand marketers to embrace this tiny little platform called Pandora. But before I kind of continue on, I have to share just one sort of funny story. So that company that called and said, we'd like to buy out all of your ad inventory for November and December was Apple. And so I remember the CEO coming in my office the second day after we launched the ad-supported free service with no ad server and no advertisers and said, Apple would like to buy out of all of our ad inventory for the next 2 months. Do you think we could do that? And I, of course, said, I don't see how we can say no to that. By the way, we don't have an ad server. And he said, I'm sure you'll figure something out. And he left, and I started trying to figure out what I was going to do. And he came back a few minutes later, and he says, what do you think we should charge them? And I said, I don't know. What are you thinking? And he says, well, what if we charge them $10,000 for November and $10,000 for December? And I said, well, that sounds like a pretty reasonable deal. So Apple was the exclusive advertiser for the launch of Pandora back in 2005 through the holiday season for $20,000. Now, if you know anything about Apple, you know that they're an incredibly fastidious company, very, very focused on every detail. And the product they were advertising was the iPod for the holidays. And they were changing their creative about, it's probably not an exaggeration to say, about every 6 hours through the life of the 2 months that we worked together. Now, so they would call and they would say, thinking they were talking to their ad operations manager, and they were really talking to me or someone, about updating creative with new tags, which I was like Googling what does tag mean. And every single time that they changed their creative, we had to literally push an entire new release of the website out. Which was a real ordeal back then. It was an hours-long process, and yeah. So that's how we started. Not pretty, but the check did clear, and they have been a long-time advertiser with us. So we all agree this is sort of a mess, sort of shoehorned in. But fairly early on, we started doing work to think about how we could integrate advertising more natively into the experience. So instead of thinking about IAB standard units, how can we work with brands and their agencies to create content that people just aren't used to seeing on the internet? So we began very early, before anybody else did this, experimenting with kind of skinning the entire experience with the advertiser's message to make it feel more and more like an extension of the product. And this is a theme that has continued as Pandora has evolved, not just for display advertising, but for all the kinds of advertising that we focus on. So let me stop for a second and talk to you just a little bit about how we think about advertising today, now that I know what tags are and there's an ad server. We think that advertising serves to leave people with a lasting image, memory, or emotion that they can associate with a brand. And it's our job to design user experiences for listeners that help connect those brand messages with listeners in really, really compelling ways. And the thing that we've most recently discovered is we have this incredibly powerful tool, the audio cue, the audio ad, which really cuts through the clutter and pulls our listeners in to engage with the content that brands are promoting on Pandora. The challenge, though, is that we've been at the forefront of this incredible transition into mobile. And of course, I'm sure the content here this week is in large part focused on how we solve advertising problems in the context of mobile. And it's been very much at the forefront of our thinking for years now. And that's just something that it's a matter, it's a fact of life for us, in that nearly 80% of all Pandora listening takes place in a mobile environment. Just to put that in some context, that makes us by far the most engaged with application on mobile in the United States, second only to Facebook. So our job is to focus our attention on driving values to listeners that also drives results for advertisers. And one of the winning formulas that we have come up with is something that we call branded radio. And again, really focused on aligning advertiser objectives with listeners' user experience objectives. What makes this work is that almost every brand that comes to us comes with a built-in association with music. If it's a retailer, they have friendly, warm music connotations. They're very engaged with us around things like the holiday music listening on Pandora. Think about professional trucks, right? Hardworking, rugged, country music. Healthcare, you've got active, healthy lifestyles, music like rock, rhythm and blues, music to get you moving. Consumer goods, families, we've got children's music on Pandora, and they can engage with the family audience that way. And energy drinks, you've got extreme, pushing the limits. We've got electronic, dubstep, indie rock. And so what we've been doing is finding ways to take music and brands together to deliver an experience that our listeners are enthusiastic about. And I just want to give you one example of how this works. So last year, Gatorade came to us and said, we're launching 3 new products designed to kind of help athletes prepare and refuel. And we want to execute a campaign that targets teenagers, and we know that they're disproportionately spending their time on mobile. So working together with their agency and the internal creative team at Pandora, we developed a branded radio strategy for them that involved the creation of 3 stations on Pandora. One called Prime, happens to be the name of one of the drinks. It was a playlist designed to help people kind of get pumped up and ready to work out. A station called Perform, which was a fast tempo kind of workout music. And one called Recover, for cool down time after a workout. All of the creative in the campaigns, we used teen models to underscore that the product was designed for young consumers, and we were able to target the messages themselves just at that part of the audience, because every listener on Pandora is logged in, and we have demographic information that we can use to make sure that the right messages get to the right people. And the results for this are really, really encouraging. 485,000 teenagers added one of these stations to their Pandora account. And that station becomes an ever-present hub for Gatorade to speak to these teenagers as time goes on. Those teenagers spent 500,000 hours, 519,000 hours listening to these stations, and all the while surrounded by the messaging that Gatorade wanted to communicate to them. And the most incredible thing maybe is that 96% of this engagement came from mobile. So if you believe that when people are listening to music on their phones, they've got it in their pocket and they're not interacting, here's your proof that they're actually leaning in. They're engaging with brands, they're spending hours with the brand, and the Gatorade was able to build this audience completely implicitly. They didn't have to get people to click like buttons or to follow them. All they had to do was offer this content, and the audience came to them naturally because it was a win for both. It's a win for the listener, and it's a win for the advertiser, and among a target that I think we'll all agree is challenging to reach. This is just one example among many. It's not the most successful even of the campaigns that we've run. There are other campaigns we've run that have built audiences in the millions for their stations. If you're wondering how long this ran, it ran for about 2 months. So we had about this 500,000 hours of listening, 500,000 teenagers engaged, all in just 2 months. So just to kind of wrap up, and I've kind of purposely left some time for questions because I know that advertising at Pandora and Pandora generally is a pretty broad topic, and there's lots of different kinds of people in the audience today, and so I wanted to get a chance to touch on some of the things that you want to talk about. But at Pandora, we really think about advertising being about connecting consumers with the aspirations and emotions of the brands that are spending time advertising on Pandora. And what's really cool for us is that music facilitates making connections generally. We come together at a bar, there's music playing. We come together at a dinner party, there's music playing. We come together in a retail environment, there's music playing. These are all environments where we're making connections. It's also an experience that follows you through the day. Your alarm clock wakes you up to music. You're listening to music as you're eating your breakfast. You're in your car, there's music. You're at work, there's music. You're at the gym working out, there's music. In the evening, relaxing with your family, there's music. And increasingly, in all of those venues, Pandora has a place. One of the big milestones we've crossed recently, there's over 1,000 different consumer electronics devices that can deliver Pandora into your home. We have 85 different cars on dealer lots today that allow you to enjoy Pandora with a completely native automotive experience. So increasingly, Pandora is capturing all of this music listening through the day, and the opportunity for brands is to connect at just the right moment when the consumer is most ready for your message, for your product. And we think that the best way to do this is to build these product-native environments, executions, that bring together a benefit for the listener through music content, as well as really, really strong tools for communicating with those listeners as they engage with the content. So I really appreciate you all listening to me kind of prattle on. I think there's a microphone somewhere that people have questions.
Well, why don't we start by giving Tom a big round of applause for a fabulous presentation. Thank you. If we can pull the house lights up so that I can see folks, and then we can see if anybody has questions. I'll ask a variation of the question I asked Sara, which is, the iPod campaign or the Honda or any advertiser, they're doing a whole lot of stuff that's not necessarily part of, it's not necessarily in a cul-de-sac in Pandora. So with Gatorade, for example, how is Pandora helping its advertising partners to link up what happens within Pandora with their broader campaign strategies? And is there such a thing as a brand genome project where you're actually able to tell the brand more about their own characteristics in the hearts and minds of your listeners?
Yeah, that's what's so exciting about creating these campaigns around listening on Pandora. We're able to go in using our internal analytics and work with the advertisers to understand the specific audience they've reached, what they look like, how they interact with this content. Imagine if you're Gatorade being able to understand specifically what parts of the country your audience is most sort of engaged with the offering. So we're definitely looking to kind of help advertisers close the loop between what they do online with us and the activations they do in the physical world.
What about offline? What about television advertising? What about connecting with other parts of the non-digital universe?
So it's the same suite of tools, right? We work with the advertisers to try to find the places where their other advertising efforts are sort of paying dividends in combination with Pandora.
All right, remember, house rules. Tell us who you are and who you work for.
Joe Staples, Interactive Intelligence. Question is, how did you drive awareness of those Gatorade channels when they first got introduced?
So all of the awareness on Pandora for that campaign was driven through media buy, so audio ads and display ads in the context of Pandora. And we actually think a big opportunity for further evolution is to challenge ourselves to come up with more and more native placements. So once you get into the experience, it's native to Pandora. We want to find ways to make the ad buys themselves be more and more native to the experience. Imagine a station that's sponsored in your station list, for example.
All right, we have another question.
D. Sudarshan, University of Kentucky. It's a naive question. Is Pandora thinking of expanding the channels like Muzak, for example, becoming part of elevators, Walmart, retail stores?
Yeah. We actually have a great partnership with a company called DMX that is a retail-friendly implementation of Pandora. It's a combination of licensing and a physical device that you put into a retail location to allow you to deliver that kind of personalized experience of Pandora, but tailored to your restaurant or nail salon or chain of electronics stores.
All right. Tell us who you are and who you work for.
My name is Baba, freegas.com. Pandora, do you guys have a way to measure the response from the listeners in terms of a reward, like the radio stations do, like we work with radio stations, where they give $1,000 worth of free gas every day? Is Pandora in that kind of atmosphere too?
There is some of that on Pandora. We have some great ad products, for example, that involve free trials for our subscription product. So as an advertiser can come in and make Pandora One, our premium subscription product, available on a trial basis to listeners. There are products like that, and we're constantly working with individual advertisers to come up with creative ideas where they might bring some content that they want our help in distributing. So I think, yeah, there's a kind of a theme of advertisers providing tangible value to listeners, and we've done lots of those things over the years.
So we have time for 2 more questions.
Great.
Tell us who you are.
Okay, I'm Karen. I work for Exec. My question is, out of all of the different advertisements, the audio ads that ran on Pandora, did you notice any common traits and which ones were successful?
I think, really, truly, I focused on this campaign from Gatorade because it does really exemplify what best works on Pandora. So they used audio messaging to drive awareness. They delivered real listener value by letting users add stations that they'd curated, and then they got kind of earned media during the listening experience to those stations so they could have an ongoing relationship with that audience beyond the click. And I think campaigns that combine some variation on that theme are the ones that we feel are the most successful.
All right, last question.
Thank you. Federico with Goodco LLC. And my question, I guess, it's in turning back the clock. You've already become a wonderful vehicle for companies that want to advertise, but at one point you were starting as a company.
Yeah.
And I know you mentioned you exploded into the market, but what vehicles did you use to explode into the market and get the growth that you did in such a phenomenal way?
Yeah, so it's true that Pandora has been this incredible beneficiary of the explosion of mobile and even broadband connectivity back in 2005. I think, short of building a product that people seem to like and all those things that hopefully are obvious, I'll tell you there's one thing that's not discussed much about Pandora's success that I think is a big part of how we ended up here. Every day we get up and ask ourselves, are we working on the things that we can be absolutely the best in the world at, and are constantly challenging ourselves to focus on those things first. And as a result, Pandora is this incredibly simple experience. You tell the name of a song or an artist that you love, we play music for you, you give simple interactions like thumbs up and thumbs down to personalize, and that's sort of the beginning, the middle, and the end of it. Now, there's this incredible temptation, particularly over a period of time like 10 years, to every month or every quarter add another feature, add another button, put another press release out. But if you're not careful, you end up with 40 features cluttering up the experience and detracting from that thing that you're best in the world at. And I think that's particularly dangerous for companies that are really dependent on word of mouth for distribution. We've had competitors through the years who had dozens of features when we had one. And I often imagined the conversations like at the dinner table, right? Where, on the one hand, you've got the Pandora listener who says, I fell in love with this service. It's a personalized radio solution. You tell it the name of a song or an artist you love, and it plays music for you. You got to try it. Contrast that to somebody who says everything, they say all that, it's this other service, it has this radio thing, it's personalized, and they have this incredible concert planner, and they have this incredible Wikipedia of music facts, and they have this incredible community where you can meet other people who like Nine Inch Nails, and every single time you add another layer to that, there's a reason for the person across the table to say, ever since I had kids, I don't go to concerts anymore. I don't want to meet people who like the same music as me. That's creepy, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I do think that counterintuitively, kind of focus and simplicity can be a really, really powerful tool for growth, I guess, contingent on creating a great product in the first place.
What a fabulous way to end. Let's give Tom a big round of applause. Thank you. That was inspirational.
Thanks, everybody.
So we're going to wind up this session now. Breakouts will continue. Don't forget, we've got the pub crawl at 4:30. We'll see you bright and early here tomorrow morning. And, I think there's a couple parties you can pick from. Have fun and come back soon.
Thank you.